Once upon a time, a city girl named Felicity and a city boy named Peter bought an abandoned 1830s farmhouse in New York. And today, December 27th, 2024, it is 2 days after Christmas, and the rush is on because we are scheduled for a certificate of occupancy inspection on the 30th in 3 days, and there is so much to do. So the big things for today are to get the mini splits turned on, to get the updates on the kitchen, and then there are some other updates as well in the bathroom and a couple other parts of the house. So as you can see, they've been working on the cabinets in here. Here are the old cabinets, and here's the new cabinet. And hilariously, well, I find it hilarious. James is less thrilled. The old cabinets are half an inch shorter than the new cabinet. So the new cabinet has to be cut off a half an inch all around the bottom so that it's the same height as the rest, so the counters don't do anything weird. They look pretty much like drawers. And there's a huge Lazy Susan in the corner, which was rusted out. And I'm hoping that we can find a useful purpose for that huge corner cabinet. This is our garbage disposal. It's getting ready to go. And then here's the new cabinet. There really just aren't that much to them, these cabinets, you know? I mean, I've moved furniture before, high boys and stuff, and that's really what these look like, except, of course, they're secured to the ground. So the work in here is paused momentarily. Part of the problem with the mini split system is that there's a leak in there that's stopping it from being fully pressurized, and the leak is here, so they've been working on that. So since we're talking about the mini splits, I thought it was worth pausing the live footage for a moment just to explain what's going on. So we had power turned on the house on, I think it was December 19th, about a week and a half ago. And in theory, the mini splits work, but nobody had actually tried to get any heating or cooling out of them. And so one of the things that we really wanted to make sure was that each of the units was working. And a couple of days before this video, I think it was right before Christmas actually, we had tried to turn on each of the mini split units and there was a problem with the system. And so James was looking around for a specialist, which of course around Christmas is hard to find. He did find a friend of his who came out and looked at the compressor unit, and the compressor unit didn't have enough Freon in it, but the weather was too cold to fill it. It has to be above freezing to put the Freon in the system. And he said that he wasn't available this coming week. And so the person that you saw the opening footage outside, one of the people anyway, is Jones. He never gave me his first name. He's Jones from Jones Heating and Cooling in Interlaken, and he came over on this day, and he was putting Freon in the compressor and also helping us troubleshoot that issue that we just saw with the unit in the kitchen that had an air leak in it. He was there most of the day, and I stopped to talk to him a couple of times. Really, really nice guy, fascinating. He worked for an HVAC company for a number of years and built up their service wing. And then he worked at one of the local prisons for about 7.5 years and also ran his own HVAC business. And then he finally left the day job at the prison and now does the HVAC full time. Really nice guy, very personable. I think if we need anything in the future, he's definitely on our list of people to reach out to. So I didn't do a lot of filming because it was basically a lot of standing around and chatting with him, and he didn't want to be on camera. But as we're looking at the footage going on in and out of the kitchen, in and out of other parts of the house, pretty much the through line for the entire day for us was an update on the mini split system. And at the end of the video, you'll get to see what the results of that process were. So let's head back to the kitchen. It's about 20 minutes after the last clip, and they're putting in the cabinet. There she be. New counter, old counter. Are they supposed to sit next to each other, or is there usually a gap between?
Supposed to sit together.
Well, but there's a lip here. I mean, the front of this goes out past here. So how? I mean, you can't
These
put them
two
flush.
get screwed together,
Oh, they do.
and your countertop goes over,
I
so you don't
see.
see it.
Right. Okay, so there is supposed to be a little bit of
Yeah,
a gap there.
yeah.
I gotcha. So how do you? So you have to reach inside then and screw that way, screw across.
You have to
Ah, okay.
drill through this and then that, and then
I see.
run a screw through.
I'm learning how cabinets are put together. I've never seen cabinets taken apart before. So as James is maneuvering the cabinets into place, you can see that they are not even on top. And so we are moving the cabinet to try to figure out what is going on. The floor is two different heights. So after a couple extra cuts and some manhandling of the cabinet and finagling, it is back in place and ready to connect the old and the new. Sure. I could sound like a screwdriver. And so here's the update on the bathroom. They finished all the mudding yesterday, but the mudding has to dry before they can put on the next layer. And because the heat isn't up and running consistently throughout the house, they've had to section it off with a piece of Tyvek and put some heat running in here to get the mudding to dry. But it's drying. It's definitely drying, and it's toasty warm in here. It feels great. And it smells, I swear I have smelled this smell before. It smells like food of some kind, like you walk into, I'm not sure what, like a sandwich shop maybe, which is weird. So they just finished putting this up. This is the wall leading at the end of the hallway leading into the great room. It was just open with the framing here. The framing was just open between the two sides. We asked if they would just put some extra drywall up here so it looks like a proper wall. Louis and Tech and the other gentleman's name that I don't know have been working on finishing this. So this was rough wood, which you can see up there, and now it is less rough. There's gonna be some trim going on there, and then it will actually look like it was meant to be a doorway as opposed to what was before. What was before, you guys can see, it's just layers of wood, and there was no finishing on it at all. It was pretty rough. So this at least looks like it's intentionally meant to be a doorway. One of the other big changes is that the sanding on the ceiling is all done. So when I pan across the ceiling, what you should see is more or less a ceiling as opposed to like this part where you can see the different patches. What you should see here is a smooth surface ready for painting. We had to get new counters because the counters that were here were no good. These aren't my favorite, but they are certainly serviceable. And Marcia has given us some ideas on how to refinish them if we wish. It needs to be cut off on this end so that we can put the stove in there, which is all hooked up and ready to go. So there's two buckets underneath here. This is the counter that's over in the corner that needs to be cut off so that there's room for the stove. James told me later that the tape is on the counter because the counter material is prone to splitting if you cut it, and the tape helps hold it together so it doesn't do that. Well, now that's a lovely sight. That is a stove next to a countertop, which has been cut to the appropriate length. So those of you who have worked with countertops probably knew this before, but I did not know how one miters corners in place on counters. So this is the instructions that come with the counter, and James is going to go ahead and mortar these in place. Miter and putty them in place, to be specific. Here's our kitchen sink, ready to be unboxed. I haven't actually seen this yet. There she be. So at this point, pretty much all the work in the house stopped because it was time to test the mini splits. And I'm so sorry, you guys. I didn't film any of it. I must have been so excited in the moment that I totally forgot to turn the camera on. So we went from room to room. We turned on all the mini splits. Jones had finished filling up the compressor, and there's a remote for each one of the mini splits that are supposed to be universal, but one of the remotes didn't work with the unit downstairs, so we had to go upstairs. And it took about, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes, but first we felt cool air coming out because we had it set to cool, and then we felt hot air coming out, and it was so exciting. It's exciting for a few reasons, right? First of all, heat. It has gotten cold here, finally. It was really warm all the way through Thanksgiving, and we've had some cold days, although the day this was filmed, it was probably in the above about 40. But we need the heat, right? We need the heat for the certificate of occupancy. We also need the heat to move ahead with the rest of the work that is required to get the certificate of occupancy, because with temperatures dropping below freezing at night, we can't do any of the plumbing work if the house isn't going to stay warm enough to protect the plumbing. So getting these mini splits up and running was a really, really big deal. And we wanted to test all of them to make sure that they all worked. I was a little bit surprised that they hadn't all been turned on and tested for the electrical inspection, but I'm beginning to understand that inspections are more about how things look. Do they look proper? Do they look like they're matching up with codes? And less about, does it actually work? So the very last piece of footage I have for you today is upstairs in Peter's office. We found out that one of the mini splits had been installed, but the wiring hadn't been connected up from the unit to the wiring in the wall. And so it seemed like a really fitting kind of final piece of footage to show you all to celebrate the fact that we now have mini splits that heat and cool. The last mini split getting its wiring. Should have filmed it earlier when James was doing fun things with his fingers, but I was so excited by what he was doing, I forgot to turn on the camera. Oops. So that's the way. We'll get the finishing shot. And then we will turn the breaker back on, and there shall be heat. So that is it for today. As you can see, there was a lot going on in the house, which frankly made Peter and I feel a little bit more comfortable. The timeline to get everything ready for the certificate of occupancy is really, really, really tight. And what we are hoping is that we can move in pretty much as soon as the certificate of occupancy is issued, or within a week or so thereafter. Frankly, although they've done an amazing amount of work in the house today, I'm not sure how realistic that is, but we desperately need to get out of paying rent for a place and also paying the mortgage, because our finances are so far outside of budget at the moment that things are getting very uncomfortable. So it was really exciting to see all the work being done today. If they can keep this pace up, right, there's a long list of things that need to be done before we can move in, and a shorter list of things that need to be done before the certificate of occupancy can be issued. The primary thing that needs to be done is all the plumbing, right? None of that plumbing has actually been hooked up completely and the water tested and things like that. So I anticipate that that's what we'll be doing over the next couple of days, and stay tuned. We'll see if we hit that December 30th mark. Thank you so much for being here. As always, I really appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you soon in my next video. Bye for now.